Okay, looks like we are up and going. So this is our fourth Friday, basically a Q&A, ask me anything kind of situation. I'm here for an hour, and anybody who wants, they can put their questions into the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. I will get those. I will get that, and we can answer those questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, it can be about pets, it can be about training, it can be about a behavior issue you're having. It could be about a behavior that you saw with a wild animal. Uh, I will take any of those questions. We'll be happy to answer them, but just drop them into the chat, and we will go from there. Let's see, they're trying to think if there's any big changes that have come up recently with the business to announce. At this point in time, I guess the only big change is we will no longer be scheduling on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I reached a point where we were having so many clients that before I let it kind of organically exist, where I ended up with a day off. And at this point in time, my services are getting very, very popular in Southwest Kansas because I do travel up to 150 miles to meet with clients and to help with any behavior issues that they have. But since this month has really shown the popularity of it, so I had to bite the bullet, and I am taking Wednesdays and Thursdays off. Now, if anybody is scheduled with me for a Wednesday or Thursday, do not worry. We're still scheduled. It's just that going forward, I won't be scheduling on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So anybody coming into the chat, go ahead, say hi. Or if you'd like, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. I'd love to answer them. Any can be related to pet training, pet behavior, any issues you might be having with your pet. I will be on until till 9 o'clock today, and we can answer those. Been having quite a bit of the COVID puppy scenarios lately. The COVID puppy scenario is one that's kind of, it's an unofficial term, kind of going in pet trainer forums, and excuse me. And basically, all that's saying is it's usually something related to separation anxiety issues. Basically, a lot of people are home a lot, which is great at first. And the dogs are loving it, but now they're getting used to it, and they're not getting acclimated to having to be alone again. So basically, they go from one extreme to the other, no in between. And that usually doesn't go super well for the doggos. They're just not emotionally resilient enough to handle that sudden shift. So one thing I suggest, if you want to avoid, Namara's trying to get on the bed. I should help her out. Come on, old lady. Let's go. Oh, there you go. Oh, kerplunk. Okay. So that's kind of fun to watch with the little green screen effect. Anyway, so the so if you want to avoid the separation anxiety with your pups when you are trying to get back into work, I would suggest honestly just giving them some time alone, getting them used to you being there or them being separated or kennelled, however it's happening in your home, for an hour to 2 hours at a time, and slowly extend that out. Excuse me. Now, another thing you can do is you can try to acclimate them that something good happens. One thing I suggest is getting an automatic feeder that spits out treats every so often. So then they can have a positive association every time you leave, at least take the edge off. They might still not enjoy it, but it won't be as bad because at least something good is happening. Now, one thing to make sure is that the the setup is giving them a treat every, I don't know, probably 5 to 10 minutes or so, maybe with a little gap if they're going to take a nap or anything like that. But basically just to help take the edge off and make sure that it can shoot in. If they're going in a kennel, make sure it can shoot or drop the treat into the kennel that they're in. or anything along those lines. Okay, so if anybody has any questions about pets or pet training, feel free to drop them into the comments, and I will be happy to answer them. Namara is very into nesting right now. She just cannot get comfortable. She is just spinning around on the bed behind me. So yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead, drop those into the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. Whether that's pet behavior questions or if there's any other animal related questions that you'd like me to discuss or talk about. So go ahead, put those into the chat, and I would be happy to answer those questions. Excuse me. And I will be on until 9 o'clock this evening. I was just talking a little bit for those that are popping in. I was just talking about the COVID puppy situation that we're having. A lot of the behaviors that I'm working with lately tend to be associated with separation anxiety. Basically, the dog's not used to people leaving them alone, and they are freaking out, whether they're in their kennel or they're doing or they're around the house. They're just a little bit stressed out. I've been working with a few doggos with this nature, with those issues in particular. I've been getting a lot of anxiety clients lately as well. I think that is partly because the adoption rates are up, and also so are the return rates at the shelters. So we have a lot of dogs going through a transition that just need a little bit of guidance and help along the way to get them in the right direction so that they're not stressing out in their new environment, and they create a positive association with the family. All right, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and drop those into the chat. I will be happy to answer them. Whether it is something simply basic, even if you just want to stop in and say hi, go ahead, put that in the chat. I will be here for an hour to answer any of those questions. Looks like we have one person watching right now. Might be me doing the check. I'm not sure. We'll see. But if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those into the chat, and I will be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. One thing that I'm actually working on with a client now is actually a couple clients is cooperative care. I've talked about cooperative care a lot. Cooperative care is when we teach the animal to participate in their own care. Usually for domestic animals or pets, would be things like nail trims, basic things of that nature. Right now, I'm actually getting one dog used to a blow dryer. She's a golden retriever. Well, she's a black golden retriever because actually, well, the name golden retriever, a lot of them are golden. There are color variations within the breed, and one of them is black. And anyway, we're working with her. She does not like getting blow dried, but the family, would like to help her hair after a bath. And so we're getting her acclimated to it. We're using a process known as the bucket game. You can look that up online. I actually use that methodology quite a bit in my behavioral work, particularly with anxiety or mostly I would describe it actually more basically as I use it a lot with my clients that are excessively reactive to things. Like they overreact to stimuli, whether it's anxiety, whether it's aggression. And I like this game to help desensitize and counter condition them from it. I got a question from Ashley. Hey, Ashley. Wanted to see what we would do about our youngest dog guarding food over the other. Growling and attacking during feeding. Okay, so actually that goes in line with a little bit of what I was just talking about. When it's dog food aggression, it's a little trickier. Usually we do a combination of management and training. the management is literally you separate them. Sometimes it's very ingrained, and it can take a while to get rid of that behavior. Now, the other thing is I like to get the animals used to eating while another animal is present. I'm actually working on this very problem with about 2 or 3 different clients. One process that we go through is we actually will feed them in a very orderly state with like a high-end treat. So, and while they might, that is a different situation than with the food bowls, we will eventually transfer that idea to the food bowl. So basically to be like, I don't know, let's say your dogs are Frank and Jif. So Frank, you get fed, and then Jif, then they get fed, and then Jif, and then you basically say it in a very orderly state. If you have 3 or 4, you just make sure you say everyone's name before they get fed. So then it's very ordered and they understand the rules regarding it. Now, with the another thing I often like to do is ask them to leave their food when they get fed, especially in the presence of whatever is bothering them with the food. So that's why I start a lot of dogs with the Powers pups. I actually started them, they should know target. I usually target them away from the food. They get a higher reward than the food itself if they leave the food, especially if we can do this in the presence of the other dog. So whatever it is that's bothering them with the food, because sometimes it's people, sometimes it's dogs, sometimes it's both. We ask them to leave. We have the other animal go buy their food in a safe way so they can't necessarily get contact if fighting is an issue with it. And every time they just let that happen, click or mark, and then reward the dog for making that choice of letting the other dog go buy the food. Actually, let's see if I can pull up a video. I might actually have a video of one of my clients kind of going through this process. Now, this wasn't with another dog, but it was very this animal was very much against people being in the presence of his food. As soon as food hit that bowl, he did not like it. This dog is named Walter. I actually use him a lot because I did have an opportunity to film most of his training. The very, very early stages, I wasn't able to because of just a risk factor. He would chase anything out of the room as soon as food hit his bowl. But by just training him and asking him to leave the food instead of forcing him to, instead of like pressuring him or dragging him away or telling him no, for example, when he goes towards the food, by avoiding doing that, we were actually able to make it a much calmer situation instead of a battle. Because one problem that I have seen is when 2 people have dogs and they are colliding. Oh, I got another question from Misha. I'll cover you next. Hello there. And I hope I said your name wrong. I probably messed it up. If I did, I'm sorry. Anyway, so if you just yell at them for guarding their food, some dogs will take that in a pot and learn from it, because it can potentially be a way to learn that kind of confrontation. But big caveat on the but here, sometimes that collision kind of actually will exacerbate the problem. So while it can work to just tell them no and then they back off, also you might also just be turning it into another point of contention, and it might actually exacerbate the issue. So I'm going to show a quick little video of Walter. Let's see if I can get this set up. There we go. And as I said, Walter is guards his food. This is a little bit indoor training, so we are actually able to ask him to leave the food. This is why I teach target right off the bat, because I want him to willingly leave it. Not a problem. I'll show you this quick little video of what I mean by asking him to leave the food in the presence of the stimulus. And now, if he gets upset and starts guarding or lording over, then we want to make it. We want to take smaller steps, make it easier, less stressful. All right, excellent. I said her name wrong. Right, excellent. All right, so here's the video of Walter. And actually, let's see. I want to be down here. Let's be down there. Yeah. So I'm going to hit the play button here, hopefully. Let's see here. And hopefully everybody can hear that. So the food is in the bowl. And we've actually trained him. This is actually going to be a later process. So we ask him to go to a certain spot, and then he sits and stays, and he gets a better reward for doing that. Now notice, see, look at that side eye. That's him going, no, I do not want you going by my food.
Okay, ask him again.
So we're not going to pressure him, but we're going to ask him to leave it again. So in this case, the stimulus isn't another dog. It's actually humans near his food. But every time he chooses and lets the human go towards it, now if he charges her, we're just going to put the bowl back down, ignore it. Now that's where it can be trickier with a dog. He's looking for his reward.
Oh.
That bark actually, she was just we were all excited,
okay,
and he should have gotten a reward there, and I tell her that. So anyway, so that's the basic gist of that scenario. Now it is trickier with a dog because the human, you can just go, I'm going to walk away. But if you have a dog in the scenario, you might want to have them both on leashes. And if they lunge, then basically both dogs leave the bowl. And then, but at the same time, we give rewards whenever they make smart choices. I love saying that with dogs, just like kids, we reward them for making smart choices. Excellent. I hope you have some good luck with that, and let me know if you do need help. All right, Misha. Let's see here. What would we have to do if our dog chews up cords and blankets? We leave them outside during the day, then we bring them in the evening. Okay, so actually, this is a management issue, which is simply just don't leave them unsupervised with those objects. So if there's cords and if the pup, actually, first things I would need to know is the dog an adult? Like, how old is the pup? And also, is it being kenneled during the day, or is it being just left out? Oftentimes I tell people to, at least for the first few years of a dog's life, to just kennel them when you're not there. Now that doesn't mean they're kenneled for most of their life. A lot of people freak out about the idea of kenneling. Dogs sleep a lot, like 12 to 16 hours a day. So all you're doing is basically saying, hey, we're going to move your sleep time to this time when I'm not here. So that way you're not getting into stuff and most importantly, learning bad habits. So at some point in time, your dog found a cord or a blanket and tore it and went, you know what? That set off some endorphins in my head, and that was awesome. That was fun. I want to do it again. For whatever reason, every dog's a little different. They find different objects that they like. For example, my eldest dog, she loves tearing paper. She gets paper, she'll just tear it for ages, one strip at a time, just because she loves, I don't know, the texture, the sound. I don't know what it is about it, but how we fix that is basically just pick up those objects whenever you can't watch them. If you can't monitor and watch them, then they are learning bad habits, and you need to make sure that they don't keep reinforcing, because there's training that we do and learning that we facilitate with the animals, but there's also learning and training that they do on their own. So every time they bark at the mailman going by, they're getting an endorphin rush, and they learn to do it. It kind of starts snowballing, and a domino effect keeps growing along the way. So I need a little bit more information. If the cords and blankets are outside with the dog during the day, all right. Well, actually, wait. He's chewing on cords and blankets. Okay, so there's a few different things I could see. I think you might mean that the dogs are outside during the day, and then they bring them in the evening, which if you have dogs that aren't destroying stuff, then I am fine with that. But remember that as they are unattended, they will learn bad habits. So usually I don't do that for a puppy, because the puppy will just start learning to destroy everything, because it's fun and nobody's there to tell them otherwise. But I would definitely kennel them up and not give them access to those things, partly because it's a safety issue for them as well. Or now the other question is he just chewing? Is he just chewing on these things when he comes inside, or is he outside bored? Usually we find this behavior when they're left alone and they're bored. So they need more stimulation, or you just need to kind of organize when their sleep schedule is. Grant says in education, we might call that a pre-correction, adjusting the contingencies to reduce the likelihood of challenges from them occurring. Yes. So, okay, in education, they might call it that. We call it also changing the antecedents. So basically, what we do is we change the environment to set them up for success. So is what we do. Especially if it's a little thing, there's no reason. If it's no big deal that they, a lot of people are obsessed with giving animals blankets, but they don't have those in the wild. Do I like to give them to them myself? Yes, of course, because it's comfortable. They're obviously more comfortable, but I will take them away instantly if they're starting to tear them up, because that's also a safety issue, because they could be ingesting those threads, and then if they ingest those threads, they get a bullous or whatever it's called, and then you'll end up with either a very sick or possibly dead puppy, and if nothing else, you could end up with a very expensive vet bill trying to remove that. So another factor, once again, we desensitize them to the stimulus. Uh, we desensitize them to the stimulus of those blankets and things like that, and give them alternative behaviors whenever they choose to chew on something more appropriate, such as maybe a deer antler or something along those lines. You praise them, let them know that that's good, and then minimize the amount of times that they can learn to do the bad behavior with a blanket. I hope that helped for that one. If anybody else has any questions, or if they have a statement they want to talk about with a pet behavior, or even a wild animal behavior they saw, or maybe you just saw something in the news or on a meme and you have a question about it, I'd be happy to answer those. If you have any questions on your pets or training, go ahead and put those in the chat and I will be happy to answer them. I'm going until 9 o'clock. I did at the beginning just point out that I am making a small change to my business. We will no longer be scheduling people on Wednesdays and Thursdays. In the past, I've been able to just kind of just organically get my weekends. Just some days I just didn't get scheduled during the week, but we're getting to the point where I'm busy pretty much 7 days a week, so I had to set up my own weekends. So anybody who is scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, don't worry, we're not changing anything, but go scheduling in the future. We will only be doing from Friday until Tuesday. All right. Niels, hey, what's happening, man? Hey, Neil. Any advice on introducing an indoor house cat to a newborn? Okay. Yes, basically it's the same way either way. I would actually start randomly making baby cries in the house, because the baby crying and very loudly is going to disturb a lot of animals. So I would start introducing the cat to that noise. If you have good speakers, or Alexa can possibly play them if you have some type of setup like that, or just YouTube videos. But make sure you change it up and it's not the exact same every time, because if you have it the exact same every time, then they'll just get used to that sound. But if you have a variety of baby cries, then they'll get more used to that. Another thing I would do is any powders and things like that the cat's going to have to get used to the smell of, I would also bring those in. I would also start carrying around a fake baby doll, like like you would a regular baby, just carrying it around the house. And if you can, make it scream and cry sometimes. Give it a lot of those natural smells. When the baby is born and in the hospital before it comes home, if you have time, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Just depends on the situation. If you have time, then maybe bring, this is going to sound gross, but possibly a used diaper, or some clothes that the infant was wearing, to get them used to that smell, and just have that smell kind of around the house, or particularly just put it in the crib so that the cat gets that curiosity out of the way a little bit. But basically just all those types of things, just to getting the cat used to those sounds, those different things, to make it less of a shock to the animal system when the actual newborn comes into the home. Trying to think if there's anything else. Really, it's just think of any type of smell, sound, and also how you'll be acting. Now, the thing that's hardest to anticipate is the amount of time that the animal, your attention towards the animal will diminish. And it's very hard to mimic that. And when that animal starts getting less attention, it will have an effect on its personality, at least temporarily, until they readjust to the new normal of having the baby in the home. But you expect some amount of change, particularly usually what we see is a more needy, what we classify quote unquote needy behaviors, like the cat seeming like it wants more cuddles. However, I will also put the caveat that usually when people say that, they're like, oh, the cat's really needy. Or another vantage point is that you don't have as much time to give to the cat. So the cat's not actually being more needy. It's just that you're noticing more because it's inconvenient for you more often due to the added responsibilities in the home. So keep that in mind. Expect a few changes. Possibly every time that the cat hears a cry, I would also potentially mark that behavior and offer a treat. So if the cat, especially if the cat's like getting real nervous every time it hears that fake baby cry, or it'll be a real baby cry via YouTube or recording or something that you play, and if the cat's getting on edge because of it, I would actually toss out a treat. Not necessarily towards the sound, just toss it out, just so it starts creating this positive association every time it hears that sound. All right, I hope that answered that question for you, Neil. That one's always a tough one. I've done that a couple times now, getting usually it's dogs, getting dogs used to the newborn in the home, but cats and everything else just needs it just as much. Even birds, if you have one, especially birds, because you're really going to run into issues with them with the amount of attention they're going to lose. Because birds, people think dogs are needy, particularly parrot species. They are extremely needy animals. So the diminished attention to them would definitely have an effect. You're very welcome, Neil. If anybody else has any questions, go ahead, drop those into the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. And it can be about training, or maybe you have a question because you saw somebody train a certain way and you want to know why or how that was working. I'd be happy to answer that. If you have questions on any behaviors that you've seen or are dealing with, I'd love to answer those questions. Put them into the chat. Also, if you just want some information on wildlife, I worked with wildlife for a number of decades as well. So I'd be happy to answer those. Anything that you have, just drop it into the chat and I will be happy to answer them. I was going to say something. Now I done forgot. Uh-oh. Oh, well, it'll come back to me. But yes, so I will, and for those wondering, I do train up to 150-mile radius of Garden City is how far I travel out for training sessions. And if anybody's interested, just contact me. The contacts are going through right now, actually. Whit Buckman at bbbehaviors.com is the email, or you can call 620-805-9429, or you can go onto my website and book your first session. I am doing this Friday through Tuesday, or however you want to look at it. Wednesday, Thursdays are the only days that I don't schedule. They just were lighter, and I needed a weekend because I'm traveling up to 150 miles, and the business is people are needing help, which is one of the reasons why I got into this business. So we are very, very busy at this point in time. So if you have any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. Yes, Grant has animal travel skills. Animal training skills will travel. That is for sure. In fact, I'm going to where am I going? I'm going to the panhandle of Oklahoma, I believe. Anyway, Yeah, so yeah, I travel quite a bit for the training. Particularly the methodologies that I use, they're harder to come by in our region, which is once again one of the reasons why I decided to do it. The niche is needed. A lot of people need help with their behavior work, particularly in a positive format, because I focus on positive reinforcement. I use actually a lot of very science-based techniques and methodologies that have been proven time and time again. And I laugh because in animal behavior analysis, they always are constantly talking about uh, trust in the science, because training does take a lot of patience. And one of my clients can attest to that as well. But it takes a lot of patience, and sometimes it takes a little longer than you hope. But every time I followed by that mantra, trust in the science, it has always worked out 100%. We might have to change the format a little bit along the way, but if you just stay with the patience and go slow, the methods do work, and it is a positive relationship that you build between the people and the animals. I was actually just talking with somebody who has lots of training experience, but theirs is from a different style, and that was why they hired me, because they wanted a better relationship with the animal in their home. And in the past, yes, the dog was doing the things, but the relationship was obviously one based on fear, which they did not want with their dog in their home. So um, it's got a lot of benefits. I like it. I've been training. Oh God, let's see. I started in 1992. Oh, so next year will be 30 years of dog training and animal training. Ooh, time flies. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat. If you just want to say hi, go ahead, say hi. Um, any questions on animals, behavior, uh, training, I'd be happy to answer any issues you might be having. I was mentioning earlier, one I've been talking about a lot lately is what we're calling COVID puppies. A lot of people are getting dogs now because they have time in the home. So they're getting them. And that's good and bad, because, yes, they do have the time, but then the dogs sometimes are not being, uh, uh, the dogs are not being uh, emotionally resilient to being left alone. I say, oh, hey, Ashley. I just want to say thank you for your awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad that it's working out for you. Actually, I'll be heading your way, I believe, tomorrow. Double check my schedule, but I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. Uh, but thank you. I'm hoping everything's working out just fine. I laugh sometimes when people are like, "You're a wizard," and I'm like, "No, I just studied a lot." Good to hear the shelter has calmed down some. So I'm just being asked for some advice here and there with regards to a few anxiety clients. Unfortunately, on shelters, it does take, well, when we do these types of behavioral therapies, it really is therapy. And when you're working with a brain, there's no poof, it's magic, it's fixed. It takes a lot of work. And unfortunately, depending on the shelter and the dynamics therein, a lot of shelters are trying to just get pets in homes because that's the goal. And so unfortunately, they might not have the full time, but do try to help out when I can, to at least try to see if we can make calmer behaviors and calmer actions with regards to that. I admit that I fully accept that not everybody has the skill sets and the experience that I have with regards to some of these. Uh, and even I doubt myself a lot of times, but then I start talking, and I can talk for probably 30 minutes, and I could probably do an entire hour talk on just some of these discussions that we've already had, such as uh, uh, destruction or home destructions and baby introductions and what else was food aggressions. Food aggressions, you get tons of those. That actually seems to be where my specialty tends to lie in, not food aggression as a whole, but just aggression and anxiety issues uh, tend to be what I am getting a lot of. I've got a lot of experience with it, and that's usually the issues that I'm working around. Particularly just because, well, it's definitely needed, and a lot of pups. I'd like to keep them. My goal myself is to keep those dogs in their homes as much as possible. I can't win everything because it's not a perfect world, but I will do what I can. And I have a fly invading my office. I will find him. Oh yes, I will. Ow. Anyway, if anybody has any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat. If you just want to say hi, I'll say hi too. And be happy to answer any questions you have regarding pets, animal behaviors, anything along those lines. Or honestly, if you saw a meme and you want to find out if it's true, I will, to the best of my ability, I will let you know if it's in my my database, if you will. So go ahead and put that into the chat. I will be on till about 9 o'clock. So we got a little over 20 minutes left. Hi, Grant. How are you, sir? But let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. I'd be happy to answer those for you. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some of the issues that I've had. I still need to put together a video. It's weird how I thought I'd have more time with COVID and everything, but it seems like I have less time for my monthly videos. I've had a pretty decent gap there just because of the amount of business that we're picking up, which is a good thing, but still need to get to some of that. I mean, some of the issues that we're working on, a lot of reactivity issues, a lot of animals that are just overreactive, either through aggression or just real excited to see everybody on walks. So working on a lot of that, working on trying to get them desensitized. One is a very big puppy, very big Dane puppy. And we're also working on the video I want to work on next is actually one of my clients that it was actually a deaf dog, so we had to adjust all the training behaviors to work on a dog that couldn't hear us. So we had to have a lot more visual signals, a lot more different ways to signify things. Some of my clients also lately, I've been getting a lot of TV reactive clients, where the dogs, as I put it, the dogs were basically holding the home hostage, and nobody could watch any TV around the house because the animals were flipping out. But it's all really very similar techniques. You just tweak it to what the issue is with that individual animal to regarding what stimulus it is. But when you start getting them to make the smart decisions and they start seeing a reward for making those smart decisions, you can very quickly start getting their behaviors much more under control for those. If anybody has any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat. I would be happy to answer them. And you can reach me at 620-805-9429. You can also email me at whitbuckman@bbbehaviors.com, or you can go to my website, learn more about me and my training methodologies at bbbehaviors.com. I also do have some vlogs, some little blogs and video blogs on there as well that give advice to a number of different issues. So maybe those can help you out if you have something minor. I know a lot of my clients will use that as a kind of a refresher. So I guide them through the whole process. They start working on it, but they just need a quick little like refresher. So they go back there and go, aha, that's right. I need to do it. I need to click then instead of then, because that was the problem. Sometimes they mark at the wrong time or they give treats at the wrong time. and it can literally be a difference of 1 second, and you end up training a whole different behavior or exacerbating a reaction to something, if you don't have the timing right, which is really what I work with a lot of clients. My clients, I train them to be amateur pet trainers, basically. Oh, we got some. Let's see. That's you. Oh, yes, I think you're talking about the TV reaction. Yes, I'm glad she's doing better. So sometimes what we do is we get to a point where, actually, we're at a point where we've guided them. They have the tools, and then they'll touch back with me if the tools aren't working, or if they just hit a plateau, and then we need to just fix it further. But generally, there's sometimes with this, it just takes so much time. You just need to stick with the program, and then as slowly the issue will improve. Okay, Grant actually has a question. Accidentally hit Samson in the face with a tennis ball while we were playing. Not super hard, but I felt bad. My first instinct was to comfort him like a child. Uh, but I'm guessing dogs, that doesn't really work with dogs. Yes and no. It depends on what's going on. So, for example, if there is a thunderstorm, I do not want people cuddling their dogs. If the dog comes to you for comfort, so be it. Go ahead. But don't go to the dog, because in that situation, the dog is like, I'm scared. And if you think about it, they go to somebody who they think can protect them or guide them through the scary thing. And if you're going to them, then they think, oh God, they don't know what to do in this situation. If I bump or boop somebody in my house, I will let the dog know, because they have found, they're still doing some studies on it with words and gestures to dogs. Excuse me, such as telling them I love you, but they are finding that the same effect with that with children is also with animals. So the more times you tell them that you love them, and you're uh, kind of just letting them know how you feel. Yes, they might not understand the exact words, but they do understand the context of the situation. So if you just go, "Oh, I'm so sorry," like after something like that happens, it's not a big deal. Um, it, I, the situation is always read off the dog. If the dog's like, "Oh God," then you want to go in and just let them know, "Oh, I'm sorry, buddy," and even say, "I'm sorry," because it's really going through that motion for us lets it seem more true to the dog. So when we say like I'm sorry, it's kind of like when people tell you when you're on the phone to smile while you're talking to somebody on the phone, because then your verbiage and your everything else will start clicking in sync with being happier, or being uh, more more authentic to the other person on the line. If you're so it kind of goes that way with dogs. So if you're saying I'm sorry and you go and do that, you're going to act in a way that dog understand, that potentially the dog understands. Oh, okay, this is an apologetic move by the human. Um, just don't overreact. Don't over stimulate the situation. Just and usually just move right back into play. Um, with stuff like that, also there is I like to pull from something that I learned in. Uh, you like that answer? You're gonna go tell your dog that you love him. Yes. So also with that situation, if he's not overreacting, I also would say there's this one I pulled from my show choir days, which is if you mess up, don't let them know, because if you don't let them know that you messed up, just make it not a big deal, like, oh, sorry, buddy, and then move on to the game, you then it's not going to be as big a deal. It kind of works the same way with toddlers. I don't know, when I was working at the zoo and doing education programs with kids, if a kid fell, I think a lot of parents know, don't uh, to ask them, don't be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Because then that will also make them think that something is wrong when maybe there's nothing wrong at all. So the same thing can happen with a dog. It really depends on the personality of the dog. I have some dogs that will act dejected if that happens. And I have to really apologize before I regain their trust. But most dogs, honestly, they get booped on the nose from play, and they're just like, that was a thing. Okay, game on. uh, so adjust your reaction based on that animal's reaction. I have also seen some animals that will overreact to the pain that they actually suffered because they know if they overreact, they've actually learned that they've trained a human to get them treats. So be careful on that aspect as well. People always say they want a smart dog. No, they don't. Smarter dogs are much harder to train because they're training you right back. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, Ashley was just talking about until you don't take the kids serious and they have a broken collarbone. That can happen, and it's not necessarily your fault in those situations because it all depends. I've seen with regards to animals, I've seen them actually fake injury because they actually became addicted to drugs and they wanted the pain pill. Okay, let's see? I got a question from Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Do you have a good way to train a 5-month-old kitten to stay off the table? Okay, she has the water spray bottle, but she continues. Now she sees the spray bottle and jumps off. Okay, so this is actually a very tricky one. So usually what I do is I teach them someplace else to go, and then I reward them for going to that other place. So then that way they prefer the other location. So like if I got a cat kind of tower thing that the cat would rather be on, because one of the things they like is just being able to scan the surface and see everything. Plus, there's food smells on the table. So what I would do is actually get something high that they can get onto that they would enjoy, but also have treats hidden up there periodically. Then that will actually make that surface more pleasurable than the table. And the and over time you just want to keep rewarding, like say good kitten, and then like toss a treat up every time the cat hangs out over there. Or if they end up on the table, you want to redirect them to that location. The spray bottle, so I use operant conditioning, and the spray bottle would fall under one of the forms of learning known as positive punishment. Um, People mistake positive reinforcement as happy and good. In operant conditioning, positive just means you're adding something. In this case, you're adding an annoyance of the spray of water whenever the cat gets there, because punishment means we're reducing a behavior. You want to reduce them being on the table. The issue with the positive punishment, there's a couple of them. One, if it's done at the wrong time. Oh, hi, Greywind. He's showing up. Hi. Yes. If it's done at the wrong time, it could create a superstitious scenario or a phobia over something that you don't necessarily want the phobia of. Another thing that can happen is they become desensitized over time, and you have to keep increasing the punishment, and then eventually they get desensitized to it, and they keep upping it as well. Now, that's one of the issues that we run into with the spray bottle is you have to you kind of end up in this arms race, and you keep having to get scarier and scarier. It can happen with choke chains and shock collars as well. You just have to keep getting tougher and tougher, but there's going to be a limit where you're like, okay, I'm not going to like throw a boot at the cat, for example. That's why I prefer just giving them another place to go and also rewarding them for it so that they choose that over the table. The other problem with the spray bottle thing is they're not learning exactly what people think they are learning. They're not learning to avoid it. They're learning to avoid it in the presence of something. And that presence is either the spray bottle or you or both. For example, they could see the spray bottle on the table and not care. They could see you by the table and not care. But you carrying the spray bottle, now they care. And they will leave. But as soon as that antecedents gone, the spray bottle and the person, all bets are off because that's the only thing that's actually they've learned. In the presence of that stimulus, don't go on the table. Otherwise, the table's fair game. It's very hard to teach cats to not be on a surface. It's hard to teach any animal not to do something, especially if they have free reign. So that's why I actually prefer to manipulate them to just prefer to be at another location. So the other location has to be more preferred because what is the cat after for the table? My guess is smell of food, and it's a high spot. And thirdly, it could also be because people are congregating around it, or there's just lots of things to play with on it. So take those three things that is probably attracting the cat to the table and mimic them on a cat tower type thing. So toys are over there, catnip might be there periodically. Just keep changing it up so it's constantly exciting for the cat to be there instead of on the table. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so the problem with those spray bottles is they usually work for a period of time and then they stop, and or you end up with them going, yeah, I just figured out when you're holding that, I just run away. So yeah, that is one of the issues with a positive punishment method versus a positive reinforcement method. The positive reinforcement does take a while, but it will have a much stronger long-term effect. All right, sounds good. All right, if anybody else has any other questions, I have about 10 more minutes. Just go ahead, put them into the chat. I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you have, whether it regards pet training, behavior issues, or maybe you heard something and you want to see if it's real regarding an animal behavior or just an animal thing in general. Maybe you saw a weird meme and you're like, wait, is that a thing? Sometimes it is. Most of the time it's not. I can tell you how many things I heard when I was giving talks with the zoo for about 10 years or 13 years or however long that was. The different things people have for misconceptions that are out there that are being perpetuated with regards to how animals work and all that. So if you have any questions, go ahead, pop those into the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, bbbehaviors.com. You can also give me a call, 620-805-9429. You can email me, whitbuckman@bbbehaviors.com. Any of those methods will work. The website does have a calendar on there where you can schedule something with me. I also do travel up to 150 miles. I also like that website resource because I have over the years made quite a bit of vlogs discussing various behaviors that I've run into or popular questions that people had that I answered there. So that could also, if it's a very simple problem and maybe we don't need to go the full route, but it can help you out and keep that pet in the home. That's why I got into this business. There is a niche in our area, and I felt that I could help people with the amount of knowledge that I have. And I just did the math, and I just realized that next year will probably be my next year will be my 30th year of training, which I swear it was just like a year or so ago, but I guess time flies. If anybody would like to say hi, go ahead. Just put that into the chat and I will be happy to answer any questions you have with regard to pets, animals, behavior, training. But I will be doing this every fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 o'clock. So if anybody has any questions, I will be back up. I trying to keep this going. I might adjust the day sometime, but for now, I think we're going to stick with Wednesdays. So just let me know. If you have any questions, put them in the chat if you just want to say hi. I think my dogs are starting to get antsy. You can kind of see them with the little green screen flickers. Yes, great one. Let me just get him real quick. Hey, bud. Thank you. Good boy. Okay. He wants the other dogs to play with him, and they're just like, no, we're old and chilling on the couch. All right. If anybody has any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat. I'm going to be on for about 5 more minutes. If the question goes long, then that's not a big deal. I'll finish answering the question, no problem. But if you have anything you want to say, go ahead, put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer it. Looks like we had a fairly good turnout tonight. I was glad to see a lot of previous clients. It's actually getting to the point where I don't think I can walk anywhere in Garden City and at least have a client or two say hi and get some good updates. So far, I have had lots and lots of good updates with a lot of clients lately. If you are having issues with separation anxiety, because that is very popular right now because of COVID, I do suggest giving your pet some small, like slowly increasing the time that the pet is alone to get them used to that emotional concept of being alone, because that's usually where people kind of mess it up. They kind of go from 0 to 10 hours alone, and the dog's like, oh my God, are you dead? Instead of just going, oh, I'm used to this. This is not a big deal. Yeah, they come back. I'm excited when they come back. That's what you want. And you want to slowly get them used to being alone longer and longer rather than just jumping straight in. So if you are somebody who's working mostly from home, but you expect to be going back in to the workplace, try to set it up ahead of time. Maybe give your dog a month if you can. If you only have a few weeks, you only have a few weeks, but do what you can to slowly integrate them back into uh, being alone and just how to deal with that emotionally um, for those pups. That's the big issue is people just the dog just doesn't know how to deal with those emotions of being alone. All right. I'm getting some weird green screen effects all of a sudden. All right. All right. Well, I thank everybody for a lot of good questions tonight. A lot of good questions this evening. So I hope I answered all of them for you all. I gave it my best to kind of describe them in the shorter format that this is, a more limited format, but this works out just well. I do also do online consultations for those that are farther away. So if anybody does need help, as long as you have a good internet connection and a video, I can guide you through a lot of the steps that we utilize to work with aggression and anxiety issues. Just let me know and we can get it started. Just go, once again, you can go to my website at bbbehaviors.com. You can also give me a phone call and of course email me. So email me, text me, call me. Let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like to start something. If it's something simple that I don't think we need sessions for, then I'd be happy to just kind of give you a quick guide. Also go to my website. I have a lot of videos with written blog kind of posts that are describing what's kind of happening around there. So if anybody has any last questions, it looks like we have about a minute or two left. If you have any questions or just want to say hi, drop them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer those for you. Sounds like so far we might not have any more questions. I answered them all, but no. There's always going to be more, always more for the future. All right. Well, thank you all for stopping in and visiting with me. For those that just met me, my name is Whitney. I do pet training and behavioral consultations and also guide you through the process of working with your pet, training them and getting them. I basically make you an amateur pet trainer in a sense, because it's a very holistic thing that you need to do when you're working with it's almost like it's basically pet therapy is what we're working on to get some of these changes done. So thank you for your time. Thanks for stopping by for this night's Q&A session. And I will talk with you all later. And I believe the next one will be on February 24th at 8 p.m. So I hope to see you all then, and you have a great have a great I guess it's middle of the week, so just have a great day and stay warm. Most of the nation most of the Midwest part of the nation just got slammed with a bunch of snow. So stay warm, stay safe, and thanks for visiting with me. You all have a good one now. Bye.